Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Straight off the bat, my friend and our guest this morning is Mr. Liborous Oshoma. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on. Very active. Quite frankly, you're on all the media now, in addition to your core function. So
I'm a friend. I'm a friend of
the media.
Media, yes.
Really.
And so some people will be in TVC today, and then tomorrow they're in another station. So I have my friend Liborous. We used to be on TVC together. Please.
Exactly. Great to have you, Liborous, because again, you are a Delta man.
Yeah, no, I'm Edo, but I grew up in Delta.
Okay. There's that sense in which I meant it. So practically. And I asked that question simply because we're going to talk about Delta and, shall we say, the contentious battle in the PDP to come up with a candidate there. It's been quite, some have even gone as far as calling it bitter. But look, where we are right now is that, well, let me leave you to do a lot of the explanations. But there's David Edevie, who, came second after Mr. Boweri. And he has taken the winner of the PDP primaries to court, and the High Court granted, his prayer and said that, indeed, you were properly elected. But not so, apparently, when Mr. Edevie went to another high court, the matter has been said that, okay, it is you. Where are we exactly? You need lawyers to help you out on this kind of a thing. Let's understand the contentions. And by the way, by way of background, it needs to be said that, well, former Governor Ibori and the present sitting governor, Mr. Ifeanyi Okowa, they are said to be in some sort of a supremacy tussle.
Yeah, that's what I learned, that all of these, mind you, all of these people at one point or the other served, in the James Ibori's government, including the current governor, Okowa. So everybody...
Even Edevie was the finance commissioner of James Ibori.
Of James Ibori. And Okowa also was a commissioner in that government. Including...
and Okowa, by the way, is now the presidential, the vice presidential,
running mate
to
the presidential candidate of the PDP. So that's why, all of this, it seems like a power play. And there may be some other things that might have happened before now. So but in that power play, what basically the law lays out requirement, and that's where I'm concerned. The law lays out requirements for candidates contesting for election. And so Section 131, Section 177, and Section 318 of the Constitution interprets the requirement. And the bar is so minimal, very minimal, that all you need to become a governor in Nigeria is a school certificate or its equivalent, and its equivalent had been interpreted in the same constitution to mean the ability to read and write, in the opinion of INEC.
It's not much different from that of the presidency.
Yes, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Apart from the age and the... Yes. No, and so, but the Supreme Court, if you remember in Degi Remios case, the Bayelsa APC running mate, had also heard that the issue of submission of certificates, if you had submitted a certificate before, you must also be consistent in that regard. And so the Supreme Court had also, in that case, laid the foundation for what should be done. That he said here, I will quickly read some part of, he said, my question in paragraph 6 of part E of the first responded INEC form is very specific. Have you ever presented a false certificate to INEC? We align with the position of the Learned Counsel to the appellant that this question relates to an election. For as long as candidate had previously presented a false certificate to INEC, the same scenario played out itself vis-a-vis the provisions of Section 66(1) of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which is to the effect that, quote, no person shall be qualified for election to the Senate or to the House of Rep if he had presented a forged certificate to INEC. The law is very clear to warrant any form of colorated interpretation. The question is from INEC CF 001 and Section 66 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, whether a certificate that turned out to be forged has been presented, not whether the forger has been charged, tried, or convicted.
Okay.
So, in this case...
Now you bring all of that, which it probably is what you lawyers call some sort of a precedent.
Yes.
You're not trying to bring it
yes,
over
so
to this. Does it
case,
match?
In this case, you have a certificate that is valid.
Yes.
Being paraded by somebody who is not the owner.
Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly.
Allegedly.
So the
because
question... I will explain it.
Edevie has denied that.
No, Oborowere...
Sorry. Oborowere has denied that.
Yeah, the question is, because that has been the argument in court, that, the certificate, if you are contesting the validity of the certificate, it is, you should write to the issuing authority. The question here is not the validity of the certificate, but the man parading the certificate. Before Justice Taiwo, before that, the judgment before this Justice Okona Bank, the name on the certificate is Francis O. Oborowere, with a date of birth written on the face of the certificate as 12th of November, 1979. Then, by an affidavit deposed to in 2003, Oborowere Sheriff Orowedo claimed that the certificate belonged to him, but that he was born on the 19th of June, 1963, and not 12th of November, 1979. The question now would be, can you, by an affidavit, correct the name and date of birth in a certificate that you didn't issue? INEC is alive. WAEC is alive. If you went to Unilag and a certificate was duly issued you with a wrong name and a wrong date of birth, wouldn't it be proper for you to write to Unilag and say, please, this certificate you gave to me, I noticed that my date of birth and my name was not correctly written. Can you correct same? If you depose to an affidavit, on the record of Unilag, that name will still be Francis Oborowere O, and not Sheriff Orowedo, as you have claimed. And then, in another affidavit, in March 2022, he claimed that Sheriff was a name given to him at childhood. And then the question is, if you look at the primary school living certificate paraded and the WAEC certificate being paraded, there is no sheriff. So if that name is a name you have been bearing from childhood, how come it didn't reflect? And instead of you to go to the issuing authority to say, look, this is my name was wrongly spelled, you are deposing to affidavit. Do you know why? Because here, we want to correct everything with affidavit. That was what cost the APC, the candidate's job in Bayelsa, because the Supreme Court said, no, you can't be using affidavit. So in this case now, you can't even use a deed of pool to put the name together, because on the face of that document, that originating document, the answer is that it does not belong to you. So until you write to the authority to say, correct these anomalies, that certificate does not belong to you then.
And therefore, also, you cannot use it.
You can't use it, you can't parade it.
But let me just...
That was why Justice, that was why Justice Taiwo said that in his judgment, the body of the judgment, that in view of this averment, the averment in the further affidavit touching on what is termed the deed dated 7th day of July 2011 as Exhibit 5, which was deposed to by the first defendant to correct the discrepancies in his name and to renounce his old name, is not assailable in any way. On the face of the document, it is dated 7th of July 2011. As aforesaid, but was stamped by Commissioner for Stamp Duty on the 29th of April 1979, dated July 2011, but stamped by Commissioner for Stamp Duty 1979. How this is possible is better imagined as it defies all logic. Further, the certificate of FIRS showing payment of stamp duty on this document was issued on the 29th of April 2022. This too clearly stands logic on its head, given the date the document was purportedly made and the stamp of the Commissioner for Oath, which is Exhibit C. So an attempt...
Sorry, sir. Additional, in the latest report,
yes,
as of Friday...
Justice Okonabang.
Yes, Justice Okonabang of the High Court in Warri has now said that the Federal High Court, so the story goes as put out by Premium Times and other media, the Federal High Court in Warri has validated the primary election that produced Sheriff Obawari as the governorship candidate of the PDP ahead of the 2023 elections.
The question is, the election, nobody had contested the election, that there were irregularities. The problem is that the candidate that emerged from that election was not qualified in the first place to contest in the election.
But two lordships are now contradicting each other.
That's where the problem, you see, if you remember the days of the PDP crisis, one judge in, this same Justice Okonabang, unfortunately is my friend, Justice Okonabang in Abuja and Justice...
No, it's not unfortunate. He's your friend.
Yes, he's my friend, yes. Justice Okonabang in Abuja and Justice, what's this other judge's name, in Port Harcourt. Today, Okonabang will give one order against. The next day, the one in Port Harcourt will give order for, until the Supreme Court eventually resolved the matter. And that led to the Nigerian Bar Association issuing a statement calling the CJ of the Federal High Court to call judges to order. And do you know, recently, the Federal High Court, in attempting to cure all of this multiplicity of conflicting orders, issued a practice direction that every pre-election matters must be filed in Abuja. And so, I do not know why Okonabang accepted that matter to be filed in Asaba.
Indeed.
But that is left for the judiciary to decide. But at the end of the day, I'm just giving you the facts. I don't want to preempt what the court will say.
Okay, and Bola has been waiting for quite a while now. Bola in Ikoyi. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you, Buyori?
Hello.
Morning, Buyori.
Good morning, sir.
Buyori.
Yes,
morning,
please go ahead now.
How are you? Please,
Liborous Oshoma.
Liborous. Yeah, how are you? Please,
I'm fine, thank you, sir. Morning, sir.
Is it possible for the same court of the same jurisdiction to give such order?
Unfortunately, that's the country we find ourselves today, where courts of coordinate jurisdiction, including Court of Appeal. Why do you think that the Supreme Court had to, before governorship election petition matters usually terminates at the Court of Appeal? The Supreme Court had to, by an amendment, allow the governorship election petition matters to terminate now at the Supreme Court because of the conflicting orders that the Court of Appeal were giving. And at the end of the day, it was a disgrace. It was becoming a disgrace to the judiciary. And so the Supreme Court ensured that such matters eventually terminated at the Court of the Supreme Court to give a single interpretation. And so once a precedent is given, it flows in that direction. Because if you remember also in the days of Oladipo Dia, even accused judges of writing two judgments or two rulings, depending on the pockets that is greased the most. That is the judgment that would be read. I'm not accusing any judge of having compromised his people. But what I'm saying is that looking at the facts, if you also look at why I am having some questions here, the order of Justice Taiwo stated that the first defender shall and ought to be prohibited from parading himself as a candidate. The order also it further says that it's hereby made, this order is hereby made, commanding and directing otherwise the second and third defender to replace what with the name of the first defender with that of the plaintiff. But do you know that after all of this judgment, INEC was a party in the matter, PDP was a party in the matter. The PDP refused to comply with this court order.
Okay.
And just watch swiftly, swiftly they will parade this Okona Bank's judgment in the face of everybody now.
Indeed. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for holding on for a bit. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Good morning.
And I greet Mr. Oshoma.
Good morning, George.
The question is this. Is the Electoral Act not clear on who should verify the qualifications of contestants? INEC is the umpire. Before INEC sees you as a candidate for either primary or election, they are expected to have verified your certificate. If INEC goes ahead and clear you, that should be all, in my view. Where was the person contesting the certificate when the filing of applications in INEC was taking place? Because he did not win, he went into the fight and started digging.
No.
If they were to dig into the path and certificates of even the current ones everywhere, you will find similar things there.
So should we not allow it?
It's a question of who is able to influence Justice Okona Bank more than the other person. And by the way, why is Justice Abang Oko always there, in spite of all that he has done in the past to the justice situation in this country? Where is NJC in regards to that judge? This is my question.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling, Mr. George. In fact, those two names, Justice Taiwo and Dr. Okona Bank, those two gentlemen.
Yes, when you are a judge in Abuja, because of the volume of matters handled, your name will resonate. Okona Bank was a judge in the Federal High Court in Abuja before he was transferred. And then consistently, there had been controversial judgments, coming from his court. Justice Taiwo had not been that controversial, apart from giving order against the EFCC. And the EFCC were threatening.
Yes.
For INEC, it is not the duty of INEC to verify documents. It is the duty of the screening committee of the political party to verify documents. If you remember the case of Degi Eremiyo in Bayelsa, he had contested election, and the courts, until the court said no, you are not qualified to stand for that election. So the moment, by virtue of Section 184 of the 1999 Constitution, the moment, and Section 84:14 of the Electoral Act, the moment you notice the infraction, you have 14 days within which to approach the court. Otherwise, if you do not, and that man is allowed to contest the election, and the court, the Federal High Court now, or the Supreme Court now decides otherwise, that he is not qualified, the victory, even if he wins, just like the Bayelsa case, goes to the party that came second. So I think that is what the other candidate in the primaries now is trying to avoid, to say, look, if we fold our hands and allow this go, the opposition party in the state is watching, and they might just latch in on this to say, this candidate is not qualified, because they all know themselves at that level. So,
okay, Mr. Ajayi.
So it is not the duty of
Thank you for holding on. Mr. Ajayi is calling in from Ikeja. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Good morning, Liborous.
Good morning, Mr. Ajayi.
I want to talk on one or two things. What is our problem? Why should we be having court issues all the time, or having governors from courts, Supreme Court governor, Court of Appeal governor, and you are not allowing the electorate to decide? You know what happened with Justice Salami, already, like you said, that was why the appeal had to go to the Supreme Court, not stopping at Court of Appeal again, where four states were won on the platter of gold from Justice Salami's era, Ondo, Edo, Ekiti, and Osun. You have
Edo was not Justice Salami, it was Justice Abdullahi.
Supreme Court judge. Hello? And what about, we are talking of qualification, what about, why does he have qualification? None is presented.
Sorry, Mr. Ajayi, let's stay in our lane. Well, let's stay in our lane. Is the PDP
Crisis in
is the
Delta State.
PDP crisis in Delta State that we're looking at now, sir? But thank you very much for calling in. So these two gentlemen, now, I mean, another thing I wanted to check with you is that the latest dismissal, is as a result of a suit filed by a governorship aspirant on the PDP platform, Agarianove. So it's not related, is
to
it?
the issue
To-
of, that's what I'm saying.
To the issue.
That's what I'm saying. That's it has never been an issue. The outcome of the party primaries had never been an issue. It's as nobody is disputing the fact that the party primaries was free and fair, and the result reflected the will and wishes of the party members. The issue here is that a candidate is saying the winner of this outcome is not qualified by virtue of the provisions of the Electoral Act and the provisions of the Constitution to stand for election because he has presented a certificate that does not belong to him. That this certificate he's parading does not belong to him. That you cannot, you know that word over, your date of birth and your name are unique to you.
Very, very.
And that is why in other climes, once they punch in your date of birth, all your details would show. It is only here that we begin to use affidavits to correct everything. If you say you were born in 1963, WAEC shouldn't or couldn't have written 1979. And if they did, it would have immediately, since 1979, you would have written immediately to WAEC to correct it.
Indeed.
And not wait till some years later to be deposing to an affidavit. Even as we speak, there is still no document from WAEC. I attended a university and I had a misspelling in my name. I took the certificate back to the university to say there is an error here because I don't want a situation where tomorrow somebody will say this certificate does not belong to you.
Because the spelling is different
Do
from
you
what's in your
know?
birth certificate.
Do you know that if you're traveling to any of these countries, your name on your international passport, if it is different, Yori Folarin or Folarin Yori, they will tell you can't fly.
Yes, now.
That you
one
can't
second.
fly.
Are they in the UK? Thank you very much for holding on, sir. Go right ahead now. Are they in the UK? Are you still there? Okay.
Yeah,
Good morning to you.
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning. In Yoruba race, there are some people they call Akandainia. So a special person, if I can interpret. It's Oma Agege. It's a special human being. You see, he has contested, he's going to contest for governorship in Delta. You can see what is happening on the other side. They are fighting each other. You'll be surprised that Oma Agege will win the election. Because this case will go ahead. So whichever level, that's number one. And the same thing goes to Oshun. Oyetola will still be governor. Because by the time the case gets to Supreme Court, with the man who went to Supreme Court, they will say, okay, even you, your election is not, you are not qualified, it's illegal. So both of them count. There are special people like that. Who are mark my word. Oma Agege will win, and the Supreme Court will give it to Oyetola because PDP, they are shooting themselves in the leg. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ade, for calling in from the UK. So it's quite a contentious, a bitter battle going on over the governorship ticket in Delta State. And at this rate, it looks like it is the Supreme Court that is going to have to unpick it.
In every battle, no matter how small, in every battle, electoral battles in Nigeria, the parties will always want to exhaust their options at the Supreme Court. And so that's why I think maybe subsequently, because also of this kind of, judgment here, judgment there. And some persons are already, and I think what the Court of Appeal, the Federal High Court had done is very unique and novel and must be commendable, that all election matters, pre-election matters must be filed in one jurisdiction to avoid conflicts. And then we should also ensure that our institutions comply and obey court orders. This idea of, INEC had said that it is the responsibility of the party to upload names of candidates. But a situation where the party is similarly compromised, because here you have a candidate who is a running mate at the center, and then you have the party national leadership that have been dancing around these candidates, and yet you have a valid court order for which they were a party, and they tell you they are waiting for an appeal.
Yeah.
But in another state, if I read the letters of INEC in respect of Edo and in respect of Delta from the same person, but different approach, different attitude, and so you now begin to wonder why politicians will not want to ventilate to the highest level. Because if INEC complies with others and the party complies with others as they come, we won't have all of this issue. And then lastly, on this issue.
Because I have a caller who is waiting now.
Okay,
let me take Tony in the UK. Good morning to you, sir. Tony in the UK, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I just want to ask the lawyer in the studio: Is it possible to make all these checks before the election? Because it defeats what democracy is all about. The court cannot decide for the electorate. So if, for instance, they place the name of the candidate somewhere for people to check whether there is any deficiency or anything against the candidate before the election.
Before the election.
Once the election is conducted, it is very, very stupid for someone to start combing what they can pick and what they cannot pick. Because what you put before the electorate is what will determine how people are governed. That is governance.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know, I thank you very much for calling in, Tony. Thank you very much, Tony. We've run out of time, but we just wanted to highlight that these are very contentious issues.
Yeah, but let me quickly say this in respect of what Tony has said.
Okay.
INEC usually publish names for claims and objection. But it beholds on the candidates and in some cases the opposing party. They know themselves. They play in the same field.
Yeah, but the names, will INEC also put the qualifications?
No,
because that's where the issue is.
INEC puts the qualifications. They put it there. So, but once these candidates emerge, the law says that you have 14 days within which to dispute, to ventilate any grievance that you have. And so it beholds on the opposing party, whether INEC publish those names before primaries, before election or not. The business of INEC is not even the primaries. It is left for the party. INEC's duty is just to observe.
Exactly.
And that's why the courts are there. And if you feel that there is any discrepancies, the best thing and the first thing which they had done here is to rush to court, approach the court for a response or a resolution of all of the issues. And once the court has resolved it, now refusing to comply with such order also, it's a violation of the rules of the land.
So it's something of a, I don't know, I don't want to call it a mess, but it is what it is. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, the court will eventually resolve it.
Exactly.
It will get to the Supreme Court. Just like the Bayelsa case.
Is there also the option of, if you people are not careful, it means you don't have a candidate?
Yeah, if they are not careful the way INEC is going, and the party is also going, by refusing, the party, INEC says, we are aware of a court order directing us not to accept this name that you are pushing to us. And the party has refused to comply with the court order by, uploading the name that the court had said they should upload. And so if they don't do that, at the end of the day, you put your party, in jeopardy. And once that happens, and then yet you want to be a vice presidential candidate, and at the same time, the party that is saying they want to correct the anomalies of the APC, first they are disobeying court orders. How do you expect Nigerians to trust you with this kind of attitude?
Barrister Liborous Oshoma, lawyer, political activist, as one of our friends would say from the UK, he will put SAN behind your name. When you say why, you say it's in view. We have seen it in view. Thank you very much, Liborous.